In the year 2247, humanity's reach into the cosmos had grown bolder than ever before. The exploration vessel Estrella, manned by a small but skilled crew of 6, drifted silently through uncharted space. Its mission was simple: map new star systems and gather data on potential habitable planets. But as fate would have it, their journey took an unexpected turn. It began with a strange energy surge, a pulse of light that engulfed the ship without warning. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and then everything went dark. When consciousness returned to Captain Lila Marquez, she found herself lying in an unfamiliar chamber. The walls shimmered faintly, pulsating with soft hues of blue and silver. It wasn't metallic or cold like human ships. It felt alive, almost organic. Lila blinked, her head throbbing. Around her lay the rest of her crew, groggy but alive. Before panic could set in, a voice echoed through the room. It was calm yet commanding, carrying an otherworldly resonance. "Awake, humans. You are safe." Everyone froze. Eyes darted around the room, searching for the source of the sound. Then, from the shadows near the far wall, a figure emerged. She stood tall, taller than any human, with skin that shimmered like liquid mercury under the dim glow of the chamber. Her eyes glowed faintly, twin orbs of electric blue that seemed to pierce straight through them. A sleek uniform hugged her lithe frame, adorned with intricate patterns that shimmered like constellations. "I am Commander Elira Vex," she said, her tone even but laced with authority. "You are aboard my vessel, the Krylos Dawn. Your craft sustained damage during your misadventure. We intervened to prevent further harm." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one spoke. This was humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life, and none of them knew how to react. Was this an act of kindness or something more sinister? Elira stepped closer, her movements fluid and deliberate. She stopped just a few feet away from Lila, who instinctively rose to her feet. There was something about this alien commander, an aura of power mixed with quiet desperation, that made Lila wary. "You?" Elira said, pointing directly at Lila. "Come with me. The others will remain here." "What? Why me?" Lila asked, her voice steadier than she expected. "You are the leader of this group, are you not?" Elira replied, tilting her head slightly. "I require answers, and I suspect you hold them. Do not worry. Your companions will be cared for." Before Lila could protest, 2 smaller figures entered the chamber, presumably members of Elira's crew. They moved silently, their forms slender and graceful, exuding an air of efficiency. Without another word, Elira turned and gestured for Lila to follow. As they walked through the winding corridors of the Krylos Dawn, Lila couldn't help but marvel at its design. The ship didn't feel like a machine so much as a living organism. Lights pulsed rhythmically along the walls, synchronized with a low hum that vibrated beneath her feet. Everything seemed interconnected, harmonious. Finally, they arrived at what appeared to be some sort of meeting chamber. In the center of the room floated a holographic display, showing images of stars, planets, and swirling nebulae. Elira gestured for Lila to sit across from her at a curved table. For a moment, neither spoke. Elira studied Lila intently, her glowing eyes unreadable. Then, breaking the silence, she leaned forward. "Spend one night with me, human," she said, her voice softer now, but no less intense, "and I will tell you everything." Lila frowned, confusion mingling with suspicion. "Everything? What do you mean?" Elira hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "There is much you do not understand about the universe, and about yourselves. If humanity wishes to survive, you must listen. But trust is earned, not given freely. So tonight, we speak. Ask whatever questions you desire. Share what you know. And perhaps, when dawn breaks, you will leave with more than you came." Her offer was cryptic, almost poetic, but there was urgency behind her words, an undercurrent of desperation that intrigued Lila. Despite her reservations, curiosity won out. "Fine," Lila said finally. One night. But I want answers, Commander. Real ones. Elira nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. Then let us begin. As the hours passed, the conversation flowed between cautious probing and guarded revelations. Elira asked about Earth's history, its wars, its achievements. She listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions that hinted at deeper knowledge. Meanwhile, Leela tried to piece together why this alien commander had singled her out, and what secrets she might be hiding. By the time the night drew to a close, Leela realized one thing for certain. Commander Illyravex wasn't just curious about humanity. She needed them, for reasons yet unknown. And whatever those reasons were, they carried weight far beyond anything Lila could have imagined. As the first rays of simulated dawn filtered into the chamber, Leela found herself staring at Commander Illyravex. The alien commander sat across from her, still and calm, yet radiating an intensity that made it hard to look away. Hours had passed since their conversation began, but time felt distorted aboard the Krylos Dawn. What seemed like minutes often stretched into hours, or was it the other way around? Lila couldn't tell. Elira leaned back slightly in her seat, her glowing eyes fixed on Leela. "You have asked many questions," she said, her voice smooth and deliberate. "But now, human, I must ask you something in return." Leela tensed. She'd been expecting this moment, dreading it even. Every question Elira posed during the night had felt like a test, carefully designed to reveal not just information, but intent. And while Leela had done her best to answer honestly, she knew there were limits to what she could share. Humanity wasn't ready for full disclosure, not with so much unknown about these aliens. "What do you want?" Leela asked cautiously, her tone measured. Elira tilted her head, a gesture that seemed almost human despite her alien appearance. "I require your trust. Without it, any alliance between us is meaningless." "Alliance," Leela repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You haven't exactly told me why we'd need one." A faint smile tugged at the corners of Elira's lips, though it didn't reach her piercing blue eyes. "Patience, Captain Marquez. All will be revealed, but only if you prove worthy." Worthy. The word sent a shiver down Leela's spine. It implied judgment, scrutiny, perhaps even danger. But she couldn't afford to back down now. If Elira truly held answers about humanity's place in the universe, then walking away wasn't an option. "Fine," Leela said after a pause. "How do I prove myself?" Elira stood abruptly, her movements fluid and graceful. She gestured toward the holographic display hovering in the center of the room. With a wave of her hand, the swirling nebulae vanished, replaced by images of Earth. Cities sprawled across continents, oceans shimmered under sunlight, and satellites orbited the planet like tiny specks of dust. "This is your world," Elira said, her tone softening slightly. "Tell me, Captain, what do you see when you look at it?" Leela hesitated. She hadn't expected such an open-ended question. For a moment, she considered deflecting with facts, statistics about population growth, technological advancements, or environmental challenges. But something about Elira's gaze stopped her. This wasn't just curiosity. It was a demand for honesty. "I see potential," Leela replied slowly. "We've made mistakes, terrible ones, but we're learning. We're trying to build something better." Elira studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Potential indeed. Yet potential can be both a gift and a curse. Tell me, human, how does your species handle power? How do you ensure it serves rather than destroys?" The question struck a nerve. Lila thought of Earth's history, the wars, the greed, the exploitation of resources and people. She thought of the fragile treaties holding nations together, the constant struggle to balance progress with ethics. There was no easy answer. "We don't always get it right," Leela admitted, "but we keep trying. That's what makes us human." To her surprise, Elira's expression softened further. "Admirable, yet dangerous. You cling to hope despite evidence of failure." Such resilience has its merits, but also risks. Before Leela could respond, Illyra activated another hologram. This one showed scenes of destruction. Cities reduced to rubble, planets engulfed in flames, ships exploding in silent bursts of light. Each image carried a weight of tragedy, a reminder of civilizations lost to time. These are remnants of others who sought power without understanding consequence, Illyra explained. They reached too far, too fast, and paid the ultimate price. Leela swallowed hard. Are you saying this could happen to us? Illyra didn't answer directly. Instead, she deactivated the holograms and turned to face Leela fully. Your species stands at a crossroads, Captain Marcus. Faster than light travel has opened doors you cannot yet comprehend. Doors that lead to wonders and horrors. Her words hung heavy in the air, leaving Leela uneasy. And you're here to warn us. In part, Illyra replied cryptically. But warnings require action. Will you heed them, or ignore them as others have? The challenge in her voice was unmistakable. Leela clenched her fists beneath the table, frustration bubbling within her. You're asking me to make decisions based on half-truths. Why should I trust you? Illyra stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. Because I offer not just truth, but survival. Join forces with my people, and together we may prevent disaster. Refuse, and your fate is sealed. For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of Illyra's words pressed down on Leela like gravity itself. She wanted proof, tangible evidence that Illyra's claims weren't mere manipulation. But deep down, she sensed the commander's desperation was real. All right, Leela said finally, meeting Illyra's gaze. If I agree to work with you, what happens next? Illyra's smile returned, sharp and calculating. Then our bargain begins in earnest. But know this, Captain Marquez. Alliances come at a cost. Are you prepared to pay it? Leela nodded, her resolve firm despite the uncertainty ahead. Whatever Illyra demanded, whatever sacrifices were required, she would do it, for Earth, for humanity, and for the fragile hope of a future among the stars. As they sealed their agreement with a handshake, Illyra's cool, metallic skin brushing against Leela's warm flesh, the chamber seemed to hum with anticipation. The night had ended, but the journey was only beginning. With their fragile alliance sealed, Illyra led Leela deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the Krylos dawn. The ship's organic design seemed to pulse with life, responding subtly to their presence as if aware of their footsteps. Leela couldn't shake the feeling that this vessel wasn't just a mode of transportation. It was an extension of its crew, intelligent and alive in ways humanity had yet to comprehend. Illyra stopped before a massive door adorned with intricate patterns that shimmered like constellations. She touched a panel on the wall, and the door slid open silently, revealing a chamber unlike anything Leela had ever seen. It was vast, filled with floating holograms, glowing artifacts, and streams of data flowing like rivers of light. This was the Krylos Archive, a repository of knowledge spanning millennia. This is where my people preserve our history, Illyra said, her voice tinged with reverence. Here, you will find answers, but only if you are willing to face them. Leela stepped inside cautiously, her eyes wide with awe. The air hummed softly, carrying a sense of ancient wisdom. Holographic projections danced around her, depicting scenes from countless worlds, thriving civilizations, battles fought among the stars, and planets reduced to ashes. Each image told a story, some triumphant, others tragic. Illyra gestured toward one projection in particular. It showed a swirling black mass, pulsating with energy, consuming everything in its path. Ships fled from it, but none escaped unscathed. Some exploded instantly. Others were overtaken by tendrils of darkness that seemed to corrupt their very structure. What is that? Leela asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That, Illyra replied grimly, is the Revenant. Her tone sent chills down Leela's spine. What does it do? It consumes, Illyra said simply. It feeds on advanced species, those who have unlocked technologies beyond their understanding. Faster than light travel, artificial intelligence, quantum manipulation, all these innovations attract its attention. Once drawn, it corrupts their creations, turning tools into weapons, progress into destruction. Leela stared at the projection, trying to process what she was hearing. "And you're saying, it's coming for us?" Elira nodded solemnly. "Your discovery of FTL technology has placed you on its radar. Already, traces of its influence can be detected in your systems, subtle infiltrations designed to weaken you from within." The revelation hit Layla like a punch to the gut. Humanity's greatest achievement, the ability to traverse the stars, was now a beacon calling forth their doom. She clenched her fists, anger and fear warring within her. "Why didn't you tell us sooner? Why wait until now?" "We tried," Elira admitted, her expression darkening. "Centuries ago, when we first encountered the Revenant, we warned others. But they dismissed us as invaders, attackers. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late." Leela turned to face her, suspicion creeping back into her mind. "If you faced this thing before, why not destroy it? Why let it keep spreading?" Pain flashed across Elira's features, brief but unmistakable. "Because we failed. My people once stood where you stand now, proud, confident, unwilling to listen. We underestimated the Revenant's power. When it struck, it consumed our homeworld, scattering my people across the stars. What remains of us fights to survive and to warn others." Her words carried the weight of loss, of guilt. Lila softened slightly, realizing there was more to this alien commander than cold authority. Beneath her polished exterior lay scars of failure and regret. "But why me?" Leela asked after a pause. "Out of all humans, why single me out?" Elira hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. Finally, she activated another hologram, this one showing scans of Earth's communication networks. Lines of red pulsed through the data streams, highlighting points of corruption. "Your world bears early signs of infection," Elira explained. "But beyond that." She paused, studying Leela intently. "Your scans revealed something unusual. Resilience, adaptability, qualities essential for survival against the Revenant, perhaps even qualities capable of defeating it." Leela frowned, processing the implications. "You think we're special. I think you have potential," Elira corrected. "Whether you choose to use it wisely remains to be seen." The weight of responsibility pressed down on Leela. She hadn't asked for this, to become humanity's sole representative in a galactic struggle for survival. Yet here she was, standing shoulder to shoulder with an alien commander who saw her as both ally and last hope. "What happens next?" Leela asked, steeling herself for whatever came next. Elira extended a hand, her glowing eyes locking onto Leela's. "We prepare. Together, we uncover the full extent of the Revenant's reach and determine how best to combat it. But know this, Captain Marquez, the road ahead will demand sacrifices. Are you ready to walk it?" Leela took a deep breath, meeting Elira's gaze without flinching. "For Earth, yes." Elira nodded approvingly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Then let us begin." As they delved further into the archives, unraveling secrets hidden among the stars, Leela felt a strange mix of dread and determination. The fate of humanity rested on her shoulders, and perhaps on the uneasy alliance she'd forged with Commander Elira Vex. Whatever challenges lay ahead, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed were a blur of activity and tension. Lila spent hours immersed in the Krylos archives, her mind struggling to absorb the overwhelming amount of information Elira shared with her. The Revenant's influence was far more insidious than she had imagined. Tiny fragments of corruption, embedded in Earth's technology, spreading like invisible roots through communication networks, satellites, and even experimental prototypes for faster-than-light drives. Every revelation deepened her unease, but also strengthened her resolve. Elira pushed Leela hard, testing not just her knowledge but her instincts. She challenged Lila to analyze holographic simulations of past encounters between the Revenant and other civilizations. In one scenario, an advanced species had tried to fight back using brute force. Their ships were consumed almost instantly. In another, they attempted to negotiate, a futile effort, as the Revenant didn't communicate or reason. It simply destroyed. "You see now," Elira said after one particularly harrowing simulation ended in disaster. "Strength alone is not enough. Intelligence must guide your actions." Leela nodded grimly, rubbing her temples. Her head throbbed from the constant influx of data, but she refused to show weakness. "I get it, but how do we stop something that doesn't follow any rules?" "That is why I brought you here," Elira replied, her tone softer than usual. "To teach you what we learned the hard way, to prepare you for what lies ahead." Despite the gravity of their situation, there were moments when the two women found common ground. Late at night, when the hum of the ship grew quieter, they would sit together in the observation deck, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. Elira spoke sparingly about her homeworld, how vibrant and alive it had been before the Revenant struck. Leela, in turn, shared stories of Earth, its beauty, its flaws, its boundless potential. These conversations forged a fragile bond between them, built on mutual respect and shared grief. But trust wasn't something either woman gave easily. One evening, as they sat side by side in silence, Elira broke the stillness with a question that caught Leela off guard. "Tell me something no one else knows," she said, her glowing eyes fixed on Leela. "Something personal." Leela hesitated, startled by the request. "Why?" "Because vulnerability breeds understanding," Elira explained. "If we are to stand united, we must know each other, not just as leaders, but as individuals." For a moment, Leela considered refusing. Sharing private pain felt dangerous, especially with someone who remained so enigmatic. Yet something in Elira's expression, a flicker of raw emotion, convinced her to take the risk. "My family died because of me," Leela admitted quietly, staring down at her hands. "Years ago, during a terraforming mission, I made a call to push forward despite warnings about unstable conditions. The colony collapsed, and they didn't make it out." Her voice cracked slightly, but she forced herself to continue. "I carry that guilt every day. It's why I joined space exploration, to honor them, to do better. But sometimes, I wonder if I'm capable of learning from my mistakes." Silence stretched between them, heavy and profound. Then, to Leela's surprise, Elira reached out and placed a hand over hers. The gesture was awkward yet sincere, a rare display of empathy from the usually stoic commander. "I understand loss," Elira said softly. "My people failed to protect our world. I have carried that shame for centuries. What matters is what we do next, how we rise from the ashes." The moment passed, but its impact lingered. For the first time, Leela saw Elira not just as an alien leader, but as someone burdened by regret, much like herself. Their shared vulnerability brought them closer, strengthening the foundation of their alliance. The next morning, Elira announced a new phase of preparation. "It is time for you to witness the Revenant's influence firsthand," she declared. Together, they boarded a smaller scout ship and set course for a nearby derelict vessel, one that had once belonged to a species consumed by the Revenant. As they approached, the wreckage loomed large against the void of space, twisted and blackened as though scorched by some unimaginable fire. Docking with caution, Elira led Leela inside. The air was thick with decay, the walls warped and pulsating faintly, as if alive. "This ship was infected," Elira explained, her voice low. "Its crew turned on each other, driven mad by paranoia and fear. The Revenant amplifies darkness within, the doubts, the fears, the hatreds. It uses these flaws to destroy." Leela shuddered, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching them. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the corridors. A whisper, barely audible but chillingly familiar. It called her name. Captain Marquez. She froze, heart pounding. Did you hear that? Elira gripped her arm firmly. Do not listen. It seeks to manipulate you. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, pulling at memories Leela had buried long ago. Images flashed in her mind. Her family's faces, the crumbling colony, the lives lost because of her decision. Panic rose in her chest, threatening to overwhelm her. Focus, Elira commanded sharply. Remember who you are. Remember why you fight. With great effort, Leela shook off the mental assault, focusing on Elira's steady presence beside her. Slowly, the whispers faded, leaving only silence. When they returned to the Krylos dawn, both women were visibly shaken. Yet the experience had solidified their bond further. They now understood the true nature of the enemy they faced, and the strength required to confront it. We will succeed, Elira vowed, her voice firm despite the exhaustion etched on her face. Together. Leela nodded, determination burning in her eyes. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready. The journey back to Earth was fraught with tension. Commander Elira Vex and Captain Leela Marquez stood side by side on the bridge of the Krylos dawn, staring at the blue-green orb growing larger in the viewport. It was a sight both women had waited for, yet neither felt relief, only dread. Humanity's leaders were unpredictable, often distrustful of outsiders. Convincing them to believe in an alien threat they couldn't see would be no small feat. As the ship approached Earth's orbit, communications crackled to life. A barrage of signals flooded in from various human factions, governments, military forces, independent colonies, all demanding answers. Who were these aliens? Why were they here? What did they want? Elira silenced the incoming transmissions with a wave of her hand. They will not listen, she said grimly. Not without proof. Leela clenched her fists, frustration bubbling within her. Then we give them proof. Show them your scans, your data. Let them see what we've seen. It is not enough, Elira replied sharply. Humans fear what they do not understand. Fear leads to hostility, and hostility leads to war. Her words hung heavy in the air. Leela knew she was right. Governments across Earth had already begun mobilizing defense fleets, interpreting the Krylos dawn's presence as an act of aggression. News outlets broadcast panicked reports of an alien invasion, fueling paranoia and division. But the challenges didn't end there. Back aboard the Krylos vessel, cracks began forming within Elira's own crew. Whispers spread through the corridors, questioning their commander's decision to ally with humans. Some argued that aiding such a volatile species was a waste of resources. Others accused Elira of prioritizing Earth over her own people's survival. One evening, as tensions reached a boiling point, a group of rogue Krylos soldiers confronted Elira in the central chamber. Leela watched silently from the sidelines as the confrontation unfolded. You endanger us all, one of the dissenters spat, his voice trembling with anger. These humans are reckless, untrustworthy. They will betray us the moment it suits them. They may yet surprise you. Elira countered calmly, though her glowing eyes betrayed hints of frustration. We cannot fight the Revenant alone. Humanity offers strength and resilience we desperately need. Strength, the soldier scoffed. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their instincts are driven by greed and fear. How can we rely on them? Before Elira could respond, another voice cut through the argument. Perhaps because we have no other choice. All eyes turned to Leela, who stepped forward, her expression resolute. I won't deny what humanity has done wrong. We've made mistakes, terrible ones. But if you dismiss us outright, you're making the same error the Revenant exploits, underestimating potential. Give us a chance, work with us, or face extinction together. Her words struck a chord. The dissenters exchanged uneasy glances before retreating, muttering under their breath. For now, The rebellion had been quelled, but Leela knew this peace wouldn't last long. Meanwhile, chaos erupted on Earth. Nations refused to stand down, accusing each other of collaborating with the aliens to gain an advantage. Military ships surrounded the Krylos Dawn, weapons locked and ready to fire. Panic gripped the planet as rumors spread faster than facts. Leela attempted to mediate, broadcasting messages to Earth's leaders from aboard the Krylos Dawn. "This isn't an invasion," she pleaded. "Commander Illyra saved my crew. She's trying to help us." Her pleas fell on deaf ears. Misunderstandings escalated into skirmishes when rogue fighter jets launched missiles at the alien vessel. Though the Krylos Dawn's defenses easily neutralized the attack, the damage was done. Trust between species shattered further. Amidst the turmoil, Leela uncovered a chilling discovery. While reviewing intercepted communications, she noticed anomalies: encrypted messages sent from Earth to unknown recipients. Tracing their origin led her to someone close to her mission: Lieutenant Marcus Kane, a trusted member of her crew. Confronting him in private, Leela demanded answers. "What are you doing, Marcus? Who are you working for?" Marcus hesitated, sweat beading on his forehead. Finally, he confessed. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. They'd promised me protection, resources to save my family during the next terraforming project." "Who promised you?" Leela pressed, her voice cold. "The Revenant," Marcus whispered, his face pale. "It's influence. It's everywhere. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I swear." Leela's blood ran cold. The enemy had infiltrated not just Earth's systems, but her own team. She immediately reported the betrayal to Illyra, who listened silently, her expression unreadable. "This changes everything," Illyra said finally. "If the Revenant controls even one human, it compromises us all." Together, they devised a plan to expose Marcus's treachery while salvaging what remained of their fragile alliance. Using Krylos technology, they traced the infected signals back to their source, a hidden facility deep beneath Earth's surface, where experimental FTL drives were being tested. It was clear now. The Revenant sought to hijack humanity's advancements, turning Earth into its next target. "We must destroy it," Illyra declared, "before it spreads further." Leela nodded, determination hardening her features. "Then let's finish this." As they prepared for the dangerous mission ahead, Leela couldn't shake the weight of betrayal pressing down on her. Humanity's flaws had nearly cost them everything. Yet amidst the chaos, she found solace in one truth. Alongside Illyra, she discovered a shared purpose, a bond forged in adversity that transcended species. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. For Earth, for the Krylos, and for every civilization counting on them to succeed. The mission to infiltrate the underground facility was as perilous as it was urgent. Leela and Illyra, accompanied by a small team of Krylos soldiers, descended into Earth's depths aboard a sleek reconnaissance craft. The journey was tense, the air thick with anticipation. Each member of the group carried their own burden: fear, guilt, or resolve, but none spoke. There was no time for words. Only action mattered now. As they approached the facility, its imposing structure loomed ahead, a labyrinth of reinforced steel and glowing conduits buried beneath miles of rock. It pulsed faintly, almost alive, emanating an eerie hum that resonated through the craft's hull. This wasn't just a research center. It was ground zero for the Revenant's influence on Earth. "This is where it begins," Illyra said, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Neutralize the corrupted systems here, and we may halt its spread." Leela nodded grimly, gripping her weapon tightly. She knew what was at stake. Failure meant not only Earth's destruction, but also the collapse of any hope for unity between humans and Krylos. Success, however, came at a cost, one she wasn't sure they were prepared to pay. They landed silently outside the facility, cloaked in shadow. The entrance was guarded by automated turrets and patrols of armed personnel, humans corrupted by the Revenant's whispers. Their eyes glowed faintly. Devoid of humanity, their movements mechanical yet menacing. Leela felt a pang of sorrow as she realized these people weren't truly enemies. They were victims, puppets of a greater force. "Stay close," Illyra instructed, her tone firm. "We move quickly and quietly. Any mistakes could alert the Revenant." The team slipped inside, navigating narrow corridors lined with pulsating cables and flickering monitors. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting subtly as if aware of their presence. Every step forward brought new challenges: traps designed to ensnare intruders, drones programmed to attack, and corridors flooded with toxic gas. But the greatest threat lay within, the insidious voice of the Revenant itself. It began as a faint whisper, barely audible over the hum of machinery. At first, it called out random names, fragments of memories long buried. Then it grew louder, more personal, targeting each member of the team with precision. "Illyra," it hissed, echoing through the halls. "You've failed your people once. Will you fail again?" The commander froze momentarily, her glowing eyes narrowing. Leela placed a hand on her shoulder, pulling her back to focus. "Don't listen," she urged. "It's trying to break us." The whispers turned to Leela next, dredging up her deepest regrets. "Your family died because of you," it taunted. "How many more will suffer before you learn?" Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she forced herself to push forward. She couldn't afford weakness. Not now. Beside her, Illyra clenched her fists, visibly shaken but resolute. Together, they pressed onward, driven by purpose rather than fear. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility, a cavernous chamber dominated by a massive machine humming with dark energy. FTL drives surrounded the core, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns that shimmered unnaturally. Tendrils of black mist snaked around them, feeding off their power. "This is it," Illyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Destroy it, and we sever the Revenant's hold. For now." But the task was easier said than done. The machine was protected by layers of shielding, requiring precise coordination to disable. As the team worked feverishly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Reinforcements poured in, both human and mechanical, forcing Leela and Illyra to split their focus between defending their position and completing the mission. Amidst the chaos, disaster struck. A stray blast from one of the corrupted drones shattered part of the shielding, destabilizing the core. Energy surged wildly, threatening to consume everything, including them. "We can't stop it," one of the Krylos soldiers shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Yes, we can," Illyra replied firmly. "But someone must stay behind to contain the explosion." Her words sent a shockwave through the group. Stay behind meant certain death. For a moment, no one moved, the weight of sacrifice hanging heavy in the air. "I'll do it," Leela volunteered, stepping forward. "You've already risked enough for us. Let me finish this." "No," Illyra countered sharply. "This is my responsibility. My failures led us here. I must make amends." Before Leela could argue further, Illyra activated a containment field around herself, sealing off the chamber. Her glowing eyes locked onto Leela's, filled with determination, and something softer, almost like gratitude. "Go," she commanded. "Tell your people what we fought for. Protect them. And remember what I've taught you." Tears streamed down Leela's face as she watched Illyra turn back to the machine, her silhouette illuminated by the growing surge of energy. The rest of the team dragged her away, fighting through waves of enemies to escape the collapsing facility. Moments later, a deafening explosion rocked the earth, sending shockwaves rippling outward. From high above, aboard the Krylos Dawn, Leela stared down at the burning crater where the facility once stood. Her heart ached with loss, but also with resolve. Illyra had given everything to save them, to give humanity a chance, and Leela vowed to honor her sacrifice. Months passed since the destruction of the underground facility, yet the memory of Commander Illyra Vex lingered like a shadow over Captain Leela Marquez. The weight of her sacrifice pressed heavily on Leela's shoulders, a constant reminder of the price paid to protect humanity, and perhaps the galaxy itself. But grief was not something she could afford to dwell on. Earth needed leadership, clarity, and unity, qualities that Illyra had instilled in her during their brief but transformative alliance. Standing before Earth's United Council, Leela faced a room filled with skeptical faces. World leaders, scientists, and military officials sat side by side, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. For weeks, they had debated whether to trust the warnings brought back from space. Some dismissed them as fabrications. Others feared retaliation if they acted too hastily. It was up to Leela to change their minds. Commander Illyra Vex gave her life so we could stand here today. Leela began, her voice steady despite the knot of emotion in her throat. She didn't do it for glory or power. She did it because she believed in us, in our potential to rise above our flaws and become something greater. She activated a holographic display, projecting images recovered from the Krylos Dawn's archives. Scenes of civilizations destroyed by the Revenant flickered across the chamber, each one a stark warning of what awaited humanity if they ignored the threat. Then came data scans showing traces of corruption already embedded in Earth's systems, a chilling proof of how close they had come to disaster. This isn't just about Earth, Leela continued, pacing slowly as she addressed the council. It's about survival for all intelligent life. We're not alone in this universe, and neither is the Revenant. If we don't act now, its reach will spread further, consuming everything in its path. Her words were met with silence at first, followed by murmurs of unease. Slowly, however, skepticism began to give way to understanding. The evidence was undeniable, and Leela's conviction left no room for doubt. By the end of her presentation, even the most resistant members of the council nodded reluctantly, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Humanity's response was swift but measured. Governments dismantled compromised technologies, severing ties with experimental FTL drives and other innovations flagged as vulnerable to the Revenant's influence. Research teams worked tirelessly to develop countermeasures, guided by the knowledge shared by the Krylos. Meanwhile, tentative alliances formed between Earth and surviving factions of the Krylos Empire, united by a common goal: to fight back against the ancient entity threatening their existence. Leela became the face of this new era, traveling across continents to rally support and foster cooperation. Her speeches carried echoes of Illyra's teachings, messages of resilience, adaptability, and hope. Though she never fully escaped the ache of losing her alien mentor, she found solace in knowing that Illyra's legacy lived on through her actions. One evening, as she gazed at the stars from the observation deck of a newly constructed human Krylos task force vessel, Leela allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The ship hummed softly beneath her feet, its design a fusion of human ingenuity and Krylos technology, a symbol of the partnership forged in fire and sacrifice. Around her, crew members bustled about, preparing for their maiden voyage into deep space. "We'll find a way to stop it," Leela whispered to the void beyond the viewport. "For you, Illyra. For everyone who's ever stood against the Revenant." Her words were soft, almost lost in the vastness of space, but they carried determination stronger than steel. Humanity wasn't ready to face the Revenant head-on. Not yet, but every step forward brought them closer to victory. With each passing day, the fragile coalition grew stronger, fueled by shared purpose and mutual respect. As the task force set course for uncharted territories, Leela felt a spark of optimism ignite within her. They were no longer alone in the fight. Together, humans and Krylos would uncover secrets hidden among the stars, seeking ways to combat the Revenant permanently. And though the road ahead promised challenges unimaginable, Leela knew one thing for certain: they would endure, because that was what humanity, and their allies, did best. They adapted, they persevered, and when faced with darkness, they chose to shine brighter. The journey was far from over, But for the first time in months, Leela allowed herself to believe in the possibility of triumph. Somewhere out there, amidst the endless expanse of galaxies, lay answers waiting to be discovered, and she intended to find them, all while honoring the woman who had shown her the true meaning of courage.